All right. Welcome, everyone. We are live. Welcome to the Grapevine Wellness Show. I see people logging in. I see some familiar names. Hello, welcome, welcome. Make yourself at home. I see some new names as well. So it's nice to meet you. I'm glad you're here. I'm your host, Jolyn Armstrong. And for those of you who are new here, I'll tell you just a little bit about me and a little bit about this show first to kick us off. I help people navigate the most difficult times in their lives. That is my profession. And I help people avoid emotional trauma throughout those difficult times. None of us want to have our lives disrupted, but all of us at one time or another do. And it's just the way life is. And I'll tell you that having someone like me help navigate you through those times always makes things better, always makes those times go a little bit easier, a little bit better, and with a little bit less kind of emotional damage, right? I am a certified trauma recovery coach, a grief recovery specialist, certified somatic embodiment specialist, and a breathwork practitioner. Those are all just tools that I use to help us navigate those difficult times. Or if you or a loved one has come through one of those times without a guide like me to help, and you're struggling to recover from some of the things that you've gone through, it makes sense, and it will be helpful if you reach out for some help at this point, because all of these tools can help you recover from those difficult times as well. As always, I'm offering those attending this show live a complimentary conversation with me to determine if coaching is right for you. And I've noticed that some of you have taken advantage of that offer already, and I'll just tell you, I am really honored to see you on my calendar, and I look forward to those conversations. But if you haven't taken advantage of that and you're thinking about that still, just know you can reply to any one of the emails you've received from me leading up to this show to get on the calendar, or you can email me directly at connect@grapevineinnerwellness.com, or you can also call or text me 916-415-8619, and we can get you on the schedule. Okay, I'd be honored just to have a conversation and see if what I can offer it would be of help to you. Okay, a bit about the show as well. Our mission here on this show is to bring you meaningful conversations that offer hope, support, and practical tools for navigating life's challenges. I'll tell you, today's episode is one that really holds a special place in my heart personally. Alzheimer's is a disease that touches so many lives, and yet it's so often misunderstood. Families struggle when they receive a diagnosis. They feel isolated, uncertain. It's super overwhelming. And if you've ever worried about a loved one, their memory, if you've wondered if their confusion is part of aging, just a normal kind of little decline, or if it's something more, if you've felt unsure about where to turn for support, trust me, you're not alone. Okay, and today we're here to shed light on this journey. I'm honored today to welcome our guest, Niki Rubarth. Niki is the Regional Director for the Alzheimer's Association for Northern Nevada, where I'll tell you, Niki works tirelessly to support families. You guys, I'm recovering from this terrible cold. I promise I'm recovering, but I still have a cough. I'm feeling so much better, but I'm still coughing, so sorry about that. Oh, all right, Niki, sorry about this. Niki is the Regional Director for the Alzheimer's Association for Northern Nevada. Niki supports families and raises awareness about Alzheimer's and dementia. But for Niki, this isn't just a job, it's a personal mission. And I feel that from her every time I talk to her. Niki has experienced the challenges of Alzheimer's firsthand, both with her father-in-law and her own father. And so she truly understands the struggles that families face and is dedicated to ensuring that no one has to navigate this journey alone. So today, Niki, welcome to the show. I am so grateful to have you here, and so sorry for coughing through your introduction.
I hope you feel better. Feel
Oh,
better soon.
yes. Yes, yes. But so, Niki, I would love to hear. I may have left some out of your introduction, a little bit out about you, but I would love for you to share with us, a little bit about what brought you to this work. I know, like I said, this is a deeply personal mission for you. And yeah, just tell us a little bit about your father-in-law, your experience with him and your father, and how this kind of shaped your work.
Mm, of course, yes. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for the opportunity to share information about our work and about the some of the stigma that surrounds Alzheimer's disease and what we're doing to try to help people to live well with it. So, and yes, as you touched on, it is deeply personal for me. Alzheimer's wasn't a disease that I was especially familiar with until I met my husband, who was caring for his father, who had Alzheimer's disease and had been diagnosed some years prior. At that point, my husband moved his dad up here from Southern California to Northern Nevada at the point where he could no longer really live alone. And we were fortunate because a family friend was willing to be a living caregiver, and that worked really well for him for as long as it could. He had independence, he had good care, he had freedom, and they would go out on, car rides and for walks and things like that. And he had the best quality of life that he could until it just got too difficult. He couldn't be left alone. He wandered. And so we found the Alzheimer's Association, I think it was about 14 years ago, and we had what I am now very familiar with as a care consultation. And we talked about the care that he needed. And we were given some resources and some information and some help to identify what were going to be our next steps looking for longer term care, for memory care. And we actually found somewhere that worked very well for us. His priority was that he wanted to move. He walked, and we found a place where he was able to walk. And those last years of his life were really the best that they could have been because he was in a safe good place.
That had to bring so much comfort to you knowing he's safe and he has the things that are most important to him, his ability to
Hmm.
walk and keep moving. Oh, that's good. That's good. And I'm so glad you were able to have him stay at home for as long as he could as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, that was
yeah,
your father-in-law through the end of his life. Yeah. And then your own father, you experienced this as well.
yeah. My dad actually had Parkinson's disease, and later on, with hindsight, we understood that he probably had Lewy body dementia, which is different in some ways to Alzheimer's disease. It's another form of dementia, and it can occur in Parkinson's disease. It affected his sleep, his movement. Um, he would have later on hallucinations, but one of the most challenging things I think about my dad's situation was that my mother cared for him for a decade, and she actually passed away before he did. And that's sometimes that's more common than I think we like to think, that caregivers can be overwhelmed by the stress of caregiving. It can be a heavy burden. So that's one of the reasons why I do the work, because it's really important to me that caregivers have the support, the help, the resources that they need to stay well and to be able to care for themselves as well as the person that they love and they're caring for.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that with us. And that had to be so difficult for you as well. Your father's caregiver, your own mother.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, became overwhelmed. So my father was diagnosed with dementia as well, the Lewy body dementia as well. And so maybe we can talk a little bit about the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia.
Hmm.
I know there's a lot of confusion there, and sometimes they're conflated. And so if you can just explain, maybe in simple terms, some terms that I can
Sure.
understand while laden with this cold brain, right? The
Yeah.
differences. Yeah.
Yes, that's a great question, and it's a question that we are frequently asked. What's the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's? And dementia it's the umbrella term, so it describes a number of different diseases that are responsible for loss of memory, loss of language, frequently loss of cognitive abilities, loss of executive functioning, and any of those that can interfere with daily life. And Alzheimer's, as I said, is the most common. About 60–70% of cases of dementia are Alzheimer's disease. But there's also vascular dementia that can be caused by strokes, heart disease, Lewy body dementia that we just touched on, frontotemporal dementia, which is something I think that we're hearing about more frequently than maybe we did in the past, and other mixed dementia. Other forms of dementia can be caused by Huntington's disease, for example. And then there are even some forms of dementia that may be reversible. We hear about depression. UTIs can mimic the symptoms or produce the symptoms that are very similar to those of dementia. So that's why we always encourage people to talk to their healthcare provider.
Yeah, thank you for that. I hadn't heard about that. Other things mimicking symptoms of dementia until more recently, and I thought, oh my goodness, how, yeah, that's terrifying,
Mhm.
first of all, but also if we can recover from those things that are causing that, fantastic, right? So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So let's talk. And by the way, thank you so much for explaining that so beautifully. I've tried to kind of wrap my brain around it myself, and even just having kind of been through that journey with my own father, I've still found it a little bit confusing. And so I appreciate your description there.
And we're
Um,
learning more about it.
I love that. I love that there's more research being done, right? So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm also looking forward to you mentioned you've got some warning signs that you can let us know about. The 10 warning signs maybe. Can you share those with us?
Sure. And that's a whole hour-long class separately. So I'll
Maybe
happy
you
to
can hit
provide
highlights.
the
Yeah,
kind of the executive summary of the 10 warning signs.
sure.
And I think the most important thing to note about the warning signs is that, it's memory loss or cognitive issues that disrupt daily life. We all forget our keys and we, forget the names of people we've met a couple of times. That's a normal part of aging and a normal part of being a human being, right? So we don't want to alarm people, but we do want to encourage them to pay attention. And if they see signs in themselves or in a loved one, keep some notes, keep a journal, make sure that you're prepared to have a discussion with your healthcare provider about those signs, and just make sure that you're in tune with what's going on. So obviously the first one is memory loss that disrupts daily life. Then next we think about challenges in planning or solving problems. So driving to a familiar place, adding up a couple of numbers, playing a card game or something like that, that you used to be able to do quite easily, become challenging, can be cause for concern. Difficulty completing familiar tasks. So again, following a recipe, buttoning a shirt, getting dressed, or mowing the lawn, all of those kinds of things. We sometimes see confusion with time and place. Circadian rhythm can be disrupted in people who are experiencing dementia, being awake at night, sleepier during the day, not being able to recognize when they're in a familiar place, their surroundings feel different.
Mm.
Another one is trouble kind of understanding visual images. Visual loss of vision can sometimes be a symptom. So a dark colored carpet, for example, can look like a hole in the ground. So that can present a significant risk for people for falling, which is obviously something that we want to try to be able to prevent. New problems with words when you're speaking or writing, words that have been familiar. And again, this is something we ought to, oh, what's the word for such and such? And it comes to us. But, if it doesn't, and it never does. I was watching TV last night and I could not remember the name of the actor who was in the movie I watched. And then it came to me in the middle of the night. Um, Misplacing things, losing the ability to retrace our steps. And sometimes, people can accuse a loved one of stealing something from them because it's just got lost. and we don't know where it is, and it might show up in the most random of places. Decreased or poor judgment is something to be concerned about. We hear a lot about financial scams, romance scams, people doing things that they never would have done um, as a healthy person, but falling prey to those kinds of things. And then more worryingly, more of concern withdrawing from work and social activities, someone who's been sociable and gregarious and outgoing, maybe realizing that there are things going on and being more reluctant to engage with people they've known and loved and been around for a long time, not doing familiar hobbies, not spending time with family, isolating themselves more can sometimes occur. And finally, I think changes in mood and personality, someone who's been generous, kind, loving, easygoing, we can see them become maybe agitated, panicky, jealous, maybe even paranoid. Some of those signs are things to really be concerned about.
Wow,
Quite a
yeah.
list.
It is, but it's really eye-opening because, okay, so I don't know, this probably happens, it's not just me. It's not just happening to me. It probably happens to a lot of people who have been kind of through this with a family member. I suddenly start to worry about myself, right? Like, wait a
Hmm.
minute. I forgot the name of that actor. I can't, who was that? And so we start to worry about ourselves, right?
Right.
In that, um, if I can't remember a name or if I can't, I leave something off the shopping list or something like that, it doesn't mean that there's actually something wrong. But if there are some of like a few of these things on this list happening, I had not known about the like a dark um, carpet looking like a
Hmm.
hole. Like that makes sense. I can see
Hmm.
how that would happen, and I haven't experienced that. So thank you. Thank goodness, right? I won't worry so much. But one thing that my husband and I, we kind of made a pact to watch each other, right? To what, hey, I'll let you know if I see anything that actually maybe is to worry about without really having that full list there. But, if I notice that you're forgetting too many things, and my hope is that um, I guess partners, friends, people, if you have someone in your life that you can count on them to tell you, yeah, hey, you're being a little bit
Yeah,
more forgetful, right? Or
right.
or you can ask like, am I more forgetful than I have been? Can
Hmm.
you, right? But so often we're not sure what to do or how to approach somebody if we notice some of these things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so maybe you can help us out with that. Like, what should someone do if they do notice some of these signs?
yeah. So it's as you mentioned, it's hard to have that conversation. It's a very
Yeah.
personal, sensitive subject, and to say to your loved one, "Hey, I think your memory is really bad. I think you've got some things going on." It's
Mhm.
it doesn't feel very kind, and but it's something that we do know. The sooner we can learn what might be going on, the sooner we can address it, then there's more that we can do to help. So, by removing some of the stigma that surrounds Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia, then we can increase the conversation, we can elevate the conversation, and hopefully make it easier for people to have those discussions. So, as I said, we suggest people to keep some notes, keep a journal, maybe the dates when things happened, and maybe pick your moment, pick the time to have that conversation. Enlist the help of other family members or trusted friends to just talk about it. And then be prepared. People who are Medicare beneficiaries, the Medicare annual wellness visit does feature questions about cognitive health and memory. Primary care providers or healthcare providers usually do ask about that. So, as part of that overall wellness visit, it's just as important as checking our blood pressure or our cholesterol or anything else. What's going on with your memory?
Yeah.
So, being ready to talk, prepared.
Love that. Love that. There is, it seems like, I don't know, it's been maybe my experience that it's probably way too common that there's a pull to not necessarily be honest about our memory at a time when
Mhm,
maybe it's slipping a little bit too much. And we have those questions in doctor's visits. And I don't know, to me, it feels like maybe if we're involved in some activities around, even like fundraisers that can help, start the conversation like, oh, look at this, what I learned from, this group, something like that. But can you tell me, I don't know if you have this information. It was not something that you and I have talked about before, but what is that draw for dishonesty around that? Like maybe it's that stigma that we talk about, right?
mhm,
Around,
mhm.
I'm not going to admit how things have been slipping for myself, right? Or, yeah.
Right, right. And I think that's possibly something that Alzheimer's does have in common with other diseases. I mean, none of us love going to the doctor. None of us love saying, I this is what I have going on. It can be scary. It can definitely be scary. And I think what's especially worrying about Alzheimer's and dementia for people is that up until very recently, only the last year or so, there have been no treatments. So there have been medications that can relieve some of the symptoms of Alzheimer's, but nothing to treat it or uh, reverse it. And we are starting to see some new treatments, some monoclonal antibodies that are available to people who are diagnosed in the earliest stages that have been shown to help with the progression of the disease. So knowing that you may be diagnosed with a disease for which there was no treatment, I think has been very scary for people.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But I love that. So that there are treatments for those who get those treatments at the earliest stages. So earliest
Mhm.
stages being when I'm unable to do simple math. I've like some of those symptoms that you mentioned,
Yeah.
forgetting people's names, those kinds of things on a regular basis. Maybe, okay,
Yeah, and there's a whole diagnostic process to be diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment. So
okay.
everyone who has Alzheimer's will have started with mild cognitive impairment, but not everyone who has mild cognitive impairment is necessarily going to go on to develop Alzheimer's. So that's
Yeah.
getting referred, talking about it early on is highly encouraged.
Good, good. Yeah, I was going to ask you when is the right time to
Mhm.
bring in professional help? And I think you've kind of pointed that out. It's when we first
Yeah.
start seeing some of those things and let the professional let us like
Yep.
do their whole diagnostic and let us know if that's appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. Okay. So I know yeah, this is pretty personal for me, much like for yourself watching and a family member go down this path. But even those who haven't had personal experience with this before, many of us worry about our own brain health, right?
Mhm.
And I hear about this often. Maybe you can share with us some lifestyle changes, some things that all of us who are not headed down that road anytime soon, things that we can do to kind of reduce that risk, and to kind of prolong our lives a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question because there's so much research around the world into brain health and risk reduction. And we are especially fortunate in Nevada because we at the Alzheimer's Association partner with the Division of Public and Behavioral Health and Dementia Friendly Nevada through the DEAR program to actually really work on this. We're getting out around the state, educating people about their risks, what they might be able to do to reduce their risks of developing any kind of cognitive decline and helping their brains to stay healthy for as long as possible. I did see one statistic that said 40% of cases of dementia worldwide may be at least reduced or even eliminated if people paid closer attention to those risk factors and were able to adopt them. So it's
That's
important to know
amazing.
that there are things that we can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they are all common sense things like making sure that we get good quality sleep, we get enough sleep. I read somewhere the other day that if you would need 8 hours of sleep a night, make sure you're in bed for 9. Do what you
Yeah.
need to do to make sure that you get good quality sleep. Eating well, and that doesn't mean following some kind of a fad diet. It means, eating foods close to the source, avoiding processed foods. There are studies that show that processed foods contribute to poorer brain health. Exercise, of course, is super important. Healthy heart leads to a healthy brain. So making sure that um, your blood is oxygenated, you're moving. Sitting is the new smoking, so we want to make sure that we keep moving. And as we age, it tends to get more difficult to do that. And then other things, obvious things like not smoking, limiting alcohol, those are very important. And learning new things, creating new pathways in your brain because you're learning new things, you're having new challenges is a really important one. Staying connected. We people who avoid isolation through human contact, whether that's with friends, family members, in social groups, or any other form of connection is really, really important for well-being. So the opportunities to be creative and all of those kinds of things. So we're learning a lot about it. And if we can adopt those healthy habits and maintain them, then the research suggests that our brains are going to stay healthier for longer.
My goodness. I think as you're listing these things off, I'm looking at the typical American lifestyle of late,
Hmm.
especially in the last decade, let's say, is kind of the flip side of that. Highly processed foods at home, disconnected, online all the time, right? All of
Yeah.
these things. Somebody told me once if you eat from only the outside of the grocery store, right? That's where most of like the more whole foods are that are less processed, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
But so much of our food is that highly processed. And so much of our lifestyle is so disconnected. So I think would you say that even like baby steps towards trying to improve each of these things would help at least some?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I think that small changes, big difference is what
Yeah.
we sometimes hear, right? So, um, yes, and we
Yeah.
know that processed foods in particular, and that's, for some of us, that's kind of the way that we grew up, and it's hard.
Yeah.
That's, their habits. So changing habits can be painful, can be uncomfortable. So,
But the
really
payoff
giving
is
thought to
huge.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I love that we can um that 40% can be tell me that stat again.
So it's 40% of dementia cases worldwide may be attributable to modifiable risk factors.
There we go. Yeah. That's huge.
Hmm.
What a motivator for me. That's it. I'm getting back out there. Right? Let's talk about the flip side of that for reals, though, the contributing factors to cognitive decline, right? Sometimes we don't think about. I'm sure that, I mean, we address that a little bit, right? The flip side of these things that can help us. Are there other things that we sometimes don't think about or talk about that contribute?
Yeah, I mean, there are things that we can't do anything about. Obviously, our
Mhm.
risk increases as we age. We know that in Nevada, about 1 in 10 people over the age of 65 are living with dementia. And of course, more of those are going to be in their 80s and 90s than in their 60s and 70s. So we know that aging is obviously a risk factor. For some people, a family history may mean that they may have Alzheimer's and have a family history. It doesn't necessarily mean that they will, but it's something that we see sometimes more commonly in families. And then there is a less common form of two copies of the APOE4 gene do tend to predispose people to Alzheimer's disease. But that genetic form is much less common than we like to think it is. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to develop full-blown Alzheimer's if you have those two genes. So those are things that we can't do anything about. But some of those things that I mentioned, we certainly can. And another thing that I think we didn't think so much about maybe half a century ago is protecting our brains, the head injuries, what we know about CTE, for example, what we know about repeated concussions, what we see combat veterans, we tend to see a higher incidence of Alzheimer's in that population. So people who've experienced head trauma, TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, may develop Alzheimer's more frequently.
I see. Okay. Okay. Wow. That's such incredible information. I appreciate that. It seems to me that if I fall into one of those groups, I have dementia on both sides of my kind of family line. That motivates me even more to maybe alter the things that I can alter, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like stack on these kind of negative influences. So more motivation even than before to
Hmm.
get good sleep, get good, have a good diet and be connected in the world and active. So,
Right. Yeah. For all kinds of reasons.
oh yes, right. All kinds of reasons and this too.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's nothing more important really than, oh, I say this about so many things. There's nothing more important than really good sleep. Like that's where I want to start. But there's also nothing more important than connection with people in our world around us too, right? Like there's so many, yeah. But this is
Absolutely.
yeah, another really good reason to be doing these things.
Hmm.
So,
And we just feel better. We feel better within
right.
ourselves, right? If we're eating better, if we're getting some exercise, if we sleep well, and that
Yeah,
contributes to our sense of well-being and our mental health. So it's
absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we first started, as I was recovering from my coughing fit, you were talking about your experience with your father-in-law and how he's able to stay home for as long as he could, and then he needed some more support. And you sat down, you found the organization that you're now working with, um, and kind of were introduced to the resources that the Alzheimer's Association has. And maybe you can share a little bit more about that and what resources, those of us who are noticing, yeah, my loved one is experiencing some of these things. Like what resources are there?
Yeah. Um, there are so many resources, and what hurts my heart more than anything is when people come to us when they're in crisis and they didn't know that we are here and that there are many other agencies with whom we partner locally in Northern Nevada, around the state, nationally. There are so many organizations who are working together to confront this disease and to provide resources, especially for caregivers. So locally, we have an office, and people are always welcome to drop by our office. But the best way to connect with us is really through our helpline. We have a national helpline that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and in many different languages. So you can always communicate at any time of the day or night and in the language that you are most comfortable with a dementia specialist. So someone who does nothing other than help and support people who are living with Alzheimer's or any other form of dementia. So that's the best place to start because then they can do an in-depth care consultation with you. What we do know is that every situation is different. Everyone who's living with Alzheimer's disease has a different experience to anyone else. So we want to make sure that you're understanding what your needs are and what resources would really make a difference. So then coming back to us locally, some of our resources include our caregiver support groups, and we have a number of those that meet around the region. And anyone is welcome. You don't need to pre-register. You can just show up and join one of our groups. And you can learn about those through the helpline or through our office. And that kind of peer support, where people are able to talk to others, share their concerns, understand what resources are available, can really often be the most helpful way to find what you need. So we love people to come to support groups. We have a number of education classes and workshops as well. We cover everything from the warning signs all the way through to difficult conversations, caregiving in every stage. And we're always happy to welcome people to those classes. They're all free as well. And we do receive some wonderful support from Nevada Aging and Disability Services, and that helps us to provide a respite program. So people who live in the same home as the person they are caring for, we can help them to get some relief from what can be round the clock care. So they can get some time away to maybe attend to their own health needs, have lunch with a friend, travel, take a day off, do whatever they need to do to help them to feel well. And our goal is definitely to help people to live well with dementia. A diagnosis doesn't mean the end of life. People live for many years with a dementia diagnosis and can. So we want to help people to live as well as they possibly can, enjoy time with loved ones, travel, see grandchildren, and all of those kinds of things. So yeah, and when you come to a support group, we always want to make sure that that's a safe, confidential space for people to share what's really going on with them. And the topics can vary. We can talk about driving or showering or managing money or any of those kinds of things. And invariably, someone else in the group has experienced something similar and has some suggestions. So it's that
Yeah.
brain trust of help and support.
Well, Nikki, you are a wealth of information tonight, and I really, really appreciate you and everything that the association is doing. I love this so much. Um, in a moment, I'm going to open this up for question and answer. So if anyone who's watching live here, if you have a question, click that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and you can type in a question. I'll read it to Nikki. And we'll get all of your questions answered. That's one of the benefits of attending this live. And so we love that. But while we're waiting for that, Nikki, I have some questions of my own. One of our goals really is to help break the stigma of Alzheimer's. What's the biggest misconception that you wish more people understood about Alzheimer's and yeah, Alzheimer's?
Yeah, I think Alzheimer's is not a mental health condition. It's a progressive degenerative brain disease. So but let's talk about that.
Mhm.
Let's talk about how we can address the stigma through understanding what it is and what
Yeah.
we can do to help people. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Love it. I love that. Um, for someone who's feeling scared about a possible diagnosis, right?
Mm.
I'm nervous for myself or for a loved one. What words of encouragement can you offer? I'm sure you've got them in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Acknowledging it, of course, as we talked about, that it can be scary, that any health challenge, any health concerns can be frightening. And talking about health concerns with family members and with healthcare providers can be difficult. So that's why we suggest, bringing in a team, other family members, trusted friends, having people involved in those conversations. Sometimes saying it out loud minimizes how big and scary it feels, right? I'm worried about my memory. Those are a few small words, but sharing that with somebody else can maybe feel reassuring. Um, doing the finding information, educating yourself, learning. We have a very, very robust website, alz.org, and we have resources in our office. So getting informed, there are so many myths about Alzheimer's disease, about aluminum in the pans and silver in our dental fillings and things like that. And they do not cause Alzheimer's. There's no correlation between those things. So making sure that the information that you are consuming is accurate and from a verified source, and that you're talking to a healthcare provider about your concerns, I think is important.
Thank you for that, because you're right. I can spiral. I've been a spiraler in the past. I found on Twitter that somebody said this about, right, about memory and right?
Right.
So I love that website, alz.org. Super easy to remember for even
Hmm.
me, right? And you've got all of the research, everything there, verified sources, all of good stuff, good stuff. They're
Yep.
fantastic.
Yep.
That is great. Okay, so is that the best way to get connected even to our local office, alz.org, and we can find Nevada if we're in Nevada?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, you can reach us through the helpline, through the website, and I'm sure you
great.
have my contact information, and I'm happy to share it. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I will link all of that in the show notes as well. If
Okay.
you do you have the helpline number, the tips
I
you can use?
do.
You can say
Yes,
it.
it's 800-272-3900. 800-272-3900. You can try it now and someone should answer.
Perfect. Beautiful. And I'll put that in the show notes as well. Thank you for that, Nikki. And yeah, I know that we are all, I don't know, the comfort that comes from knowing that there's support out there is just, it's amazing, right? Yeah.
Definitely. And I would
Hmm.
say, we are only able to do our work through community support and through the power of volunteers. We have a number of volunteers who deliver our education programs and who facilitate our support groups, who have been or are caregivers themselves and who really understand the challenges. So
That's
they they're the best people really to be able to provide help to others.
that's beautiful. Yeah, definitely. We have a really important question here. And I love, Nancy, thank you for asking this question. What can we do to increase the funding for research and development? Important.
That's such a great question.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Well, we have volunteers and have done a significant amount and a fabulous job of helping us increase funding over the 10 years that I have been involved with the Alzheimer's Association. And I can't tell you the exact numbers, but it has the curve has, it's kind of gone like that. The amount of funding that is now appropriated to the National Institutes of Health has changed dramatically. So there is a lot more investment in research, and we're not talking about big pharma and kind of money going to drug therapies. It's really about researching the causes of Alzheimer's, learning how to diagnose it, understanding what we can do to prevent or delay it. So all of those different research projects that are taking place around the world are really significant. The Alzheimer's Association is the third largest funder of Alzheimer's research after the United States government and actually the Chinese government. And so we support projects. We're able to help them to accelerate, where there are promising projects, we're able to fund those so they can hopefully not have to worry about having enough money to be able to get to that end point. We
Yeah.
know it takes a long time for a research project to be completed. So come out and support our events. Come to the Walk to End Alzheimer's. Talk to your legislator. Write to your legislator. Tell them to support funding for Alzheimer's research.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So you mentioned the walk. When is the walk?
Yes, thank you for asking.
Hmm.
The Walk to End Alzheimer's is Saturday, October 18th, this year at Sparks Marina again. It's a wonderful event. It's a joyful, uplifting morning where we come together to support people who have lost loved ones, people who are living with the disease, and really to recognize the importance of Alzheimer's disease and that we need to support those who are facing it. So
That's
you can go to alz.org/walk to be able to sign up. Just search for our walk, and we hope to see you there.
that's fantastic. I will tell you guys, I spend a lot of time at the Sparks Marina. I don't live very far from there, and it's such a beautiful venue. It's a little 2 mile loop around this beautiful marina. I have never seen so many people around that marina than during your walk. It's amazing. Yeah, it's such a cool event. And I was so honored to be there last year and very much looking forward to it again this year. And you have other events too, if I remember
We
correctly.
do, yeah, we do. Actually, what's coming up next? Well, we have a number of education classes at different times. We'll be at Ollie this week, the OSHA Lifelong Learning Institute here in Reno on Moana, delivering the second part of our three-series program, The Empowered Caregiver. So we're helping caregivers to identify tools that can help them in that role. And then we all have other education opportunities coming up, certainly in the month of May for Older Americans Month. One of our programs is going to be managing money, a caregiver's guide. So helping caregivers to plan with their loved one money, obviously, care, legal plans, and putting those plans in place when the time is right. And then importantly, we will have a day at the legislature in April 16th. We have our advocacy day. Um, as everyone knows, Alzheimer's does not discriminate. It affects anyone and everyone equally. So we have been fortunate to be welcomed in Carson City by legislators who want to hear from constituents about their experiences of caregiving or living with the disease in order to help us to be able to increase local funding or implement policies that can help families. So we're certainly looking at a few things this year. We're looking at a memory care network and having dementia navigators who can help people through the process here in our state. So really important support. So again, if you'd like to join us on Advocacy Day, we'd love to hear from you. It's a really important day.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And I wanted to bring up something you had mentioned a little bit ago. Um, in talking about fundraising for research, and you mentioned, this isn't all just like a big pharma thing. And
Hmm.
I wanted to just kind of point out it just turned my brain to all of the recommendations that you offered, all of the support and the advice that you've given has not been take this medication or that medication or whatever. It's all um natural things that we can do, right?
Hmm.
And I love that the research is pointing to a lot of those things. And it tells me a lot about what this research
Hmm.
kind of what's behind it, in that, it really is driven by, let's help make this better. Let's find really what's underneath this and what can help us stave it off for as long as we can or come back
Yeah.
from it if we're headed in that direction. So I appreciate that so much about this.
Thank you. Yeah, and of course, even though I said those are common sense things, they are what we've learned about them has come from
From this
in-depth
research.
research studies. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to have highlighted. So I appreciate you saying those things. Oh, and one last thing too. There's a beautiful comment in chat, but first, I just wanted to talk about this beautiful scarf that you're wearing. One
nice
just from a
scarf.
style sense too, but look at this scarf. I just wanted to have
Yeah,
looked at. Yeah, tell us about that.
thank you. Yes, I'm happy to talk about that. So the scarf has flowers, four different colored flowers on here, and if you come out to the Walk to End Alzheimer's, you will see that one of the most important and moving moments is when everyone raises their particular flower that represents their connection to the cause. So the blue flower is for people who are living with the disease. The purple flower is for people, someone who has lost someone to Alzheimer's disease. The yellow one is for people who are caregivers. And then the orange one is for people who just care and who want to be a part of a world of helping us together to find a world without Alzheimer's disease. So yeah,
Love that. I
it's
love that.
yeah.
Envious of your scarf. It's absolutely beautiful, and just what a
Thank you.
beautiful message too. Thank you so much, Niki. There's a comment that just said, "This has provided a fabulous wealth of information for so many people." Thank you, Niki. Thank you so much for coming on and for putting up with my silly coughing fits as I
I'm
recover.
so, so
And
feel better.
I will, and thank you. And if you can, if you'd be willing to come back again, I'd love to have you back. I know that this has just been really, really helpful for so many. And thank you so much, Niki.
Well, thank you for what you do, and thank you
Yeah,
for helping us to raise awareness of this and for it being a part of our community. Yeah, thank
absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a good night. Bye bye.
Thank you.